Welcome to the Project, the podcast with the mission to cover every project throughout pop culture and history. I'm Sam.
And I'm Lewis.
And this week we watched Project Legion.
Unfortunately so.
Yeah, it was a funny one. It was one of the ones when we searched on Prime, we searched Project a couple of weeks back, and from the description and from the poster, we were like, oh, that sounds like an action-packed adventure.
The poster looked much higher production quality than the film actually was.
I think it's safe to say this is one of the lowest production value things that we've ever watched.
It's one of the worst things we've ever watched.
I think it may well be, yeah. And you kind of get that impression from almost the start.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it in a little bit, but from the start I was like, this feels like something we've watched before, and then it changes into something which is just bad really. But we're talking about that in probably about 10 or so minutes, so if you want to skip ahead, we've got time codes in the episode description. We've also got some personal projects at the end.
Yeah,
sure, we've got loads of stuff to talk about. It will be in the episode description.
I've got a couple of things I wanted to mention.
Fantastic. But before that, how are you today, Lewis?
Yeah, I am fine. Not much to say.
That's good. That's all right.
I caught up with our former guest David today.
Yeah, you did.
Asking about the podcast and looking forward to a future Nemesis sequel.
That'll be good.
We'll do it at some point.
We might have another book coming up soon. Actually, we were having a little pre-podcast chat about that.
Yes, we won't give too much away, but there's something in the works.
There is indeed.
But yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah. Busy at work. I had a couple of days off because it's Amy's birthday recently, so that was good fun. But 2 days off from work and you come back in, you're a bit out of sorts, and the work's kind of piled up, as we've said before. So it's been all right though. Yeah, not too bad. A couple of things to mention up front. Our Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania Silver Screen Project episode will be out now at time of release. So we've just recorded it just a moment ago, so it's fresh in our minds. We saw it in the cinema last night as of time of recording. Check that out if you haven't had a chance yet. And the previous two are also available, which you'll notice as well. But the main thing that you mentioned a moment ago was the BAFTAs.
Yeah, so just gone with the BAFTAs. It would be a week ago at time of release, but for us it's just happened. So thought it'd be might as well discuss some of the big winners. So I've got them in front of me here.
Cool.
So the biggest winner of the whole thing was All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yes,
won several
which
awards.
you spoke about last week, didn't you?
Yes, you haven't seen it.
I still haven't seen it. I think I will give it a chance maybe over the weekend.
It's definitely worth a watch. So it won Best Film. It beat out Banshees of Inisherin and Everything Ever All at Once.
Right.
Both films that I really like. Probably like them more than All Quiet on the Western Front, but I do think All Quiet on the Western Front is a worthy winner. Yeah,
I still haven't seen Banshees, but that's another one. One of those two I imagine I'll see over the weekend at some point.
Yeah, fair enough. They are both very, very good. And it's like, it's a big war epic. I'm not surprised that it won Best Film.
And that kind of anti-war sentiment is quite potent. Potent? It's potent. No, it's it's timely, isn't it? Basically.
And Edward Berger won Best Director for that as well.
Yum.
Best actor they had was Austin Butler for Elvis.
Okay, you know what?
Kind of surprised me.
I still haven't watched the second half of Elvis. Me and Amy completely forgot what we had it like on the back burner and just never picked it up again. So I would like to finish that because I did quite enjoy what I saw.
I mean, Rami Malek won Best Actor for Freddie Mercury didn't he, at the Oscars. So they don't shy away
Taron
from...
Egerton definitely was nominated. He won something, maybe won a BAFTA. Not an Oscar though.
But I mean, I haven't seen Elvis yet, so I can't really comment on that. Cate Blanchett won Best Actress for Tar.
Yes, still haven't seen that either,
but I've heard she's very, very good. Interestingly, for that, Anna de Armas was nominated for Blonde. Have you heard much about Blonde?
Yeah, I heard it was quite controversial in a lot of ways. I think it was quite kind of surreal and arty in lots of ways. I remember hearing that there's a bit where like her fetus like talks to her about having an abortion. It's quite like weird in that sense.
I think it's based on a book that's kind of a exaggeration of the life of Marilyn Monroe and really delves into kind of the the horrible sides of her life.
like the abuse that she suffered as a starlet and that sort of thing.
So it kind of plays on that. So I think
it's quite an uncomfortable watch from what people have said.
I've heard some people say it's really quite good, and other people be like, I think it's kind of got similar vibes to me as Mother, where some people are like, this is terrible, and some people I saw it and I was like, this is
great.
Was
that Darren Aronofsky?
Yeah, it was. It was very Darren Aronofsky.
Taron Egerton won a Golden Globe for that role.
Okay, there you go. Other notable ones: Barry Keogh won Best Supporting Actor for Banshees, which I thought it would more likely to go to Brendan Gleeson, who both of them got nominated for both this and the Oscars.
For the Rising Star rather than
maybe Brendan Gleeson will get the Oscar.
Maybe,
but Barry Keogh is very good at that, and I'm quite happy to see, because a lot of people didn't like Eternals and he didn't have much to do in Eternals.
True.
I'm glad he's now got this.
I mean, we'll see a lot of him, clearly. Like,
I think, was he in Geostorm as well?
I don't think so, because Robert Sheehan's in it from Misfits and Umbrella Academy.
Yeah.
Another curly-haired Irishman.
Best Supporting Actress came from Banshees as well as Kerry Condon, who plays the sister of Colin Farrell. Okay. And she is very good.
Is she? Yeah.
I don't think she's been nominated for an Oscar, but it's quite rare that people win a BAFTA and not even get nominated for an Oscar. But it's the way of things. They kind of the main things. Banshees and All Quiet on the Western Front picked up a lot of the smaller ones. Pinocchio won Best Animated film.
Oh, did it?
Which
I
still
haven't watched that either.
And I thought was very good.
Yeah, it's on my Netflix list.
Yeah, I think that's worth watching. It's funny that best film not in English language, of course, All Quiet on the Western Front, because what else is it going to be? I bet it'll win best foreign picture at
how many
the Oscars
was
as
it?
Well.
Like 7, 9 wins, something like that. It was quite a few.
Yeah, I think it was 7.
I think I got a notification over the weekend, whenever it was.
It won 7. It was nominated for 14 and won 7.
Right. So, I mean, that's a 50-50. That's pretty good for nominations, isn't it?
Banshees and Elvis both won 4.
Okay.
I saw a thing the other day of a guy made a TikTok of what films had the highest ratio of wins for over 4 nominations at the Oscars.
Yeah.
And there's several that won like 8 from like 10 nominations.
That's pretty good.
But the biggest one was, I think it was nominated for 11 categories and won 11 categories.
Right.
Was Return of the King.
I knew it was going to be that. I must have heard that before. I
think it's because the first 2 didn't really win much, so it just sweeped everything.
It's almost like the legacy thing, but like in a very short range. Yeah. It's like Lifetime Achievement Award kind of thing. It's like we mentioned Gary Oldman a few episodes back. I'm sure he's great in I'm Churchill, whatever it's called.
Dog style.
But like, that's one of those ones where it's like everyone likes Gary Oldman. He's done a lot of good stuff in his life, and it's Lewis is doing a be real of me while I'm trying to talk. Yeah. Any other notable ones on there that
no, that's kind of the main thing. I was I just thought of it. It's Return of the King. I saw a post, I think it was on Reddit earlier, saying based on the date that came out, in universe in The Last of Us, people would have seen Fellowship of the Ring and The Two Towers, and then the outbreak would happen before Return of the King.
I think it's the same with the third Star Wars as well.
The prequels.
The prequels,
that makes sense.
Star Wars. It's 1983.
It's quite funny that.
It's like they never got to see the end of that. It would be funny if that comes up at some point. Like, what the hell was going to happen at the end of that?
Yeah, except I remember Space, the TV series, the whole first few episodes of season 2 about how much Simon Pegg hates the Phantom Menace.
Right. Because he goes through a whole period, doesn't he? Yeah, he like relapses back to it. They mention it in the first episode as well. It's like one of his criteria. Oh no, he's like bitching to a little boy in like when you first get introduced to him, I'm pretty sure. But speaking of Last of Us, have you managed to catch any more of it?
No, been busy watching other shit that I couldn't easily find.
Yeah, very, very good. The 5th or 6th episode came out recently. Good stuff.
I might just binge it when it's done.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, no, very, very much worth watching. A very sad program. So some great little action set pieces, but mostly kind of the heart side of it, which is nice for a kind of more apocalyptic,
Yeah.
effectively a zombie program. I know people love The Walking Dead, and I'm sure lots of those character interactions are great, but I think this is this is on a different level there. But yeah.
So that's the BAFTAs. We'll probably go more detail in the Oscars, which is coming up in a few weeks.
Yes, that's right. We'll try to go, like you say, go into a bit more detail. We can recap a bit of the stuff that we've watched. Maybe if we watch anything between then and now. Maybe
the BAFTAs are always a nice warm up and like getting you in the mood for awards season.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already had some, but
yeah. I mean, I'm planning on watching a couple more before then, so we can either do a bumper personal projects, do it up front. We'll see. We'll
decide on the day.
But that's the end of that segment there. What's the first proper segment?
The first proper segment. Project News.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Oh, that's good, because it would be embarrassing I played the wrong jingle. So the first bit of Project News, which I got from Googling the word project, as I often do, it's from Deadline.
Oh.
And it's Steven Spielberg's mounting a big production for Stanley Kubrick's Napoleon. Project is set as a 7-part limited series for HBO.
Okay, yeah.
Do you know anything about Stanley Kubrick's Napoleon?
No.
Basically, Stanley Kubrick, after 2001: A Space Odyssey, wanted to do a Napoleon film and spent years doing like academic research on Napoleon. Had this whole like 10-hour-long film planned out. But then some other like historical films at the time like flopped and production problems happened. So it kind of never got made, and he went and made other stuff. But basically, Spielberg has picked up all his research and writing and is adapting it to a mini-series for HBO.
Okay, that sounds fun.
I was like, that sounds great, because it's always one of those like great what-ifs of film history, like Kubrick doing a Napoleon epic.
Cool. To be fair, there's a lot that I don't know about Napoleon. So
same.
Yeah.
I feel like I always love like historical epics, and I feel like there's a real lack of them.
Well, it ebbs and flows, doesn't it?
Yeah, like 20 years ago, we were getting like Gladiator and a lot of
Gladiator 2's in the works. I think I saw some casting recently. It was someone
saw a summary of the original script for Gladiator 2.
Yeah, it's wild. Is it like
wild? He travels through time. And
he's almost like a Highlander, and he keeps doing different stuff in different. Like he goes like what is it, Quantum Leap or whatever. I think he goes into different warriors' bodies in different times or something, and fights in different wars.
Because Gladiator is so like grounded.
And the whole thing is that, like, you know, spoilers, like he wants to get to the peaceful afterlife, and I think he does at the end, right?
I don't know,
but it's like it's Paul Mescal is going to be in it, so I like Paul Mescal. He's also got that kind of Julius Caesar hair. He's got the little hair at the front. So
Napoleon's going to be a 7-part limited series. And apparently it's set from 1804 to 1814, so kind of the peak Napoleon years.
So it's not like a full biography.
No,
it might have some flashbacks. You never know.
And they might extend it. They'll probably extend it up to the Battle of Waterloo at least to kind of
focus
cap
on
it
that. It does a little bit extra.
Yeah, apparently originally it was going to be Jack Nicholson as Napoleon and Audrey Hepburn as his wife.
Okay, so that shows how times have changed.
Yeah, but
I think they should still get Jack Nicholson to do
it. But yeah, it's I reckon it'll be good. It's written by Kubrick, made by Spielberg. That's a good recipe, isn't it?
So is it very, very early on? Did you say then? It's not like it's not kicked off anything.
It's early production stuff. They haven't cast anyone or anything yet. It's just
who would you cast for it off the top of your head?
As Napoleon?
Paul Mescal.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it could be anyone. You want someone who
How old is he in that? He's kind of early middle age at that point.
Yeah, probably 30s, 40s. You want someone who kind of gives an aura of power as well.
Do you think they'll go like
short?
Short.
Well, that's the thing, because Napoleon wasn't actually short, was he?
Average height.
Average height. Yeah.
Or wasn't it like that he was actually above average height, and it's like a miss?
It was a miss.
no, not misnomer, but like
it's the way that we measured feet was different to how the French measured feet. So
because they got smaller feet, 'cause they're so small.
Yeah, I don't know. What is
Danny
Napoleon?
DeVito, there we go.
Danny DeVito, sure. Or just go like the upper end and just think like Jason
thinking.
Momoa.
Yeah. Jason Momoa is Napoleon.
No.
That Fast and Furious trailer was quite fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was that the most you've ever seen of Fast and Furious?
Probably apart from other trailers.
Yeah.
But we saw a lot in that trailer.
We saw a lot.
So yeah, the other bit of project news I got comes from Empire.
Yep. Of the Sun.
Empire of the Sun, yep. Also Empire, the Kasabian album. And the little known Roman Empire. But the Roman Empire has broken us with this news, which is
a couple thousand years later.
Well, it's Michael Bay teaming up with Lazarus project creator Joe Barton for bounty hunter drama.
Literally every week Joe Barton's on it.
Yeah, so
yes.
And it's you got to hear Empire saying, what do you get when you combine Joe Barton, the creator of some of the most cerebral TV of modern times, Dewey Haji and the Lazarus Project, with action auteur and noted pyromaniac Mr. Michael Bay. They're making a series that is about an American bounty hunter working in Mexico who finds himself fighting for survival when one of his marks lands him in trouble with the Mexican cartel.
Okay, I was expecting like a big twist there, but I mean there might still be. But...
Yeah, so
it's gonna be like one of his marks is an alien.
I don't think they're doing like a sci-fi route, no. But Joe Barton and Michael Bay, was that on your 2023 bingo card?
But I'm loving it. We're here for the Barton blow up. Here. He is. Along with Frank Zagarino, he's the patron saint of this podcast.
Yeah.
He's given us at least 2 things that we talk about on this podcast.
Oh, good old Joe Barton.
And now 3, I think, technically.
Yeah, well...
we just need him to put project in the title and we're all good. Project Mexico Bounty Hunter.
Project Bounty Hunter. Well, it's pretty well, but no, it doesn't say what the name of it is.
There's still some hope then.
Yeah. But yeah, it also... It's like, Lazarus Project comes later this year.
Amazing. No, I'm excited for the season 2 though. I was listening back to the episode last week and I was like, oh yeah, I'm excited for
last week's episode.
Yeah.
So that's all the project news for the week.
Fantastic.
Means we can go into
Project
delightful
Legion. So now this time, Lewis, I thought I would do the Google description because I've already got it here.
I have got one.
Maybe keep it up there just in case. But see what you think about this. So Legion is an American superhero television series created by Noah Hawley for FX, based on the Marvel Comics character David Haller / Legion, set in an alternate timeline of the X-Men. Is this the right Legion?
No.
So you're telling me I watched 3 seasons of Legion for nothing?
Oh, that'd be so funny. I've been meaning to watch Legion again because I watched season 1 and never got into...
Yeah. Maybe we could talk about Legion this episode instead.
I wish.
Legion was very, very good.
It's on Disney Plus, isn't it?
I think it is because, as I just said, it's an FX series and they all go to...
Of course.
Yeah, no, I did copy the whole start of the Wikipedia there and I almost just read it all out. So
and got bored.
Yeah. You didn't step in, so
I was gonna let you roll with it.
I couldn't be bothered.
Let's see how far you go.
Legion was great, and who plays him? I forgot what his name is.
Dan Stevens.
Dan Stevens, honestly, one of the best out there. Love Dan Stevens. I think he's
I
fantastic.
like him in Downton Abbey.
That's the one thing I haven't seen him in.
And he was the Beast in that film, Beauty and the Beast.
I haven't seen him in that either.
I think that's the 2 things I've seen him in. Apart from Legion.
There's one where he goes to an island and there's some weird stuff going on. There's a cult, the Ritual. No, that's the one I talked about. Something else. There's The Guest, where he's like a guy who's trying to do something.
I was going to say
he's in the Eurovision film.
Oh yeah, I was going to say they should get him in the MCU, but he's already doing like a X-Men thing.
I think that's all
that's done,
cut off.
Yeah,
it's a very, very good Legion.
Better than Project Legion.
Yes. So what's Project Legion then? As I've clearly done the wrong research.
Yeah, there. I mean, I usually do the Google description after, but I guess I'm going to have to do it up front now. A former Marine must survive after waking up in the midst of apocalyptic chaos.
Apocalyptic chaos.
Unsure of his reality and surrounded by demonic creatures that toy with his mind, he barricades himself away from the evils lurking outside his door.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds pretty good, doesn't
it? That's it. I mean, if you wanted a complete summary of this film, you could just take the clips from when he's talking to his laptop, where every 5-10 minutes he explains what's happened in the last 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
Just get those clips.
Even though the first few times he doesn't know what's going on at all and he says the wrong thing, he's like, something's going on. And then later on he's like, it's not an earthquake. Yeah, no shit, we knew that. So where would you normally have gone then with it?
What do you mean? Oh, yeah. Project Legion from 2022. This was last year.
Was it?
Yeah. I know, right?
Wow. I would have said 2012. Honestly.
I've got some interesting background to this, which I'll save for last. Directed by Lance Kawaz, who's mostly done like short horror stuff.
Right.
He's done one actual other film called Good Thief, which has got a 3.6 on IMDb.
Okay, good stuff.
So starring as this, I'll leave the main person to the end because I've got stuff to say about him.
Okay.
But playing Cindy is Brandy Roderick, who was in 22 episodes of the Baywatch series in like the year 2000.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense, yeah.
And she was in Starsky and Hutch, the 2004 one.
Okay, yeah,
Ben Stiller.
That's quite a good film. I quite like that, yeah.
Chris Mayer plays Mills, who's been in fuck all. And Kelly Lynn Reiter plays Karen, who she was an extra in the Hunger Games.
Fantastic.
But the main guy, Donald Cowboy Carone, who plays Greg, he is a retired professional kickboxer.
That makes a lot of sense.
Unbeaten, 29 fights, 28 wins, 1 draw.
You'd expect some good action from that then, wouldn't you?
He was also a UFC fighter, lightweight class. And then I found out some more interesting stuff. Firstly, he's close friends with Rob McElhenney.
Oh yeah,
and was in an episode of Always Sunny as himself,
right?
The UFC fighter.
There's an episode that it might be where they're doing Fight Milk, which is like their supplement drink. And there's a couple of fighters they get in on that, and they're like, so maybe that one. Then.
But he was in 2022. He was also in a film called Terror on the Prairie, opposite Gina Carano.
Oh, is he on that production company that's the anti-cancellation company?
And was made by Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, they're doing their like anti-woke MCU, aren't they?
Yes, he was in that.
And he's friends with
Rob McElhenney, surprised me. On Wikipedia, there's long sections on allegations of racism, sexual harassment, homophobia, and transphobia. Several segments on Wikipedia about a lot of bad stuff he said.
Yeah.
Until 2009.
Let's just keep this still going.
Oh yeah. He openly said that he refused to wear a mask during COVID because he's not a sheep.
Even though this feels like it's somewhat a reaction to COVID, right?
Yeah. And then finally, until 2009, when he was a UFC fighter, he was sponsored by Holzer Reich, a neo-Nazi t-shirt company who have lots of like Iron Cross and Eagle branding that's very Nazi symbolism.
Okay.
And they sponsored him until 2009 when the UFC banned them.
So when he says he's friends with Rob McElhenney, maybe he thinks he's friends with him. I'm hoping.
But maybe enough to get it onto. Maybe.
But that would have been around then. So
maybe Rob liked UFC and was like, let's get him in.
Yeah.
Got him in, and then he found out he was a terrible guy.
That's what I'm hoping. You'd hope that someone Rob McElhenney's of a high enough profile that you'd hope that would be known if he was
to be a pretty chill dude.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain parts of Always Sunny that are pretty like edgy, but most of the time it's from the perspective of like these characters are awful, and even now they've they're more self-aware than they used to be, I think.
Yeah,
so you'd hope that wasn't the case.
But yeah, so we've got a racist, misogynist, homophobic, transphobic star of this film.
Well, you know what? I thought the worst thing that was going to be said about him was that he absolutely cannot act his way out of a paper bag. I think that he is probably the worst actor I've ever seen in anything, like genuinely. And the fact he's got a fighting UFC background makes sense, because I wondered why the hell they chose this guy to lead this
what's
film.
weird about that is that there's a couple of scenes where he fights and they're not good and they're not well choreographed.
I think that's probably, he probably has the capability and it was badly kind of arranged.
Yeah.
Did you see also This is Saban Films? Is the production company, which may ring a bell with you because they also produced and distributed Project Ithaca, which was one of our very early episodes.
I did recognize it. I just thought,
and at the time, I was like, Saban is the name of the Power Rangers company, and at the time I was like, no, that's not the connection. It's the same company. They're the same people who own the Western rights to what is Power Rangers effectively. They released the most recent film like 5-10 years ago.
Wow.
And they also release a crazy load of weird B movies, which I won't go into now,
like
but I've got the IMDb of Saban Films, which is 225 titles, sorted by popularity. So if we've got time at the end, we can go through that because there's some big names: Mel Gibson, Bruce Willis, Sam Worthington, Nicolas Cage. Like they release some actual films.
Yeah.
But
speaking of IMDb, do you want to guess the score for Project Legion?
I did see this, but it was over a week ago, and I think it was like, I know you mentioned 3 point something earlier. I think it's around the 3.5s.
It's 2.1.
Whew.
Might be the lowest we've had. It's very rare for anything on IMDb to get that low.
That is awful.
And probably fair.
Probably fair.
So yeah, that's all of it. Do you want to give a quick overview of our thoughts before we go into it? All I've written here is that it was really, really shit.
It was okay. So the premise, we'll talk about the kind of what they want us to be. You know, you mentioned, so we start with kind of like a bit of a setup about like there's some mystical goings on and there's a team that have been sent to sort it out, and it kind of, the stakes are set quite like relatively high.
They mentioned the Black Plague.
They mentioned the Black Plague, and it was 666 years since.
To this day.
To this day, then. And it's something like the last remaining victim of the Black Plague in this Spanish village was buried alive, and there's occult forces going on. And then we kind of get this intro, and then it cuts to the most boring film I've ever seen, where
it
most
was
of the time
boring.
They have this weird scene. You know, we will go through this in a little bit more detail. We get a weird scene at a bar, which is supposed to be like, these are what all the characters are like. But then most of the time, he's just in his apartment. Like, he seems like he's crazy from the start.
Yeah. So I was thinking,
we also don't know how he got there, which does come into play in the laziest way that I've ever seen.
Oh my God. But like the concept of a man barricading himself in his small flat whilst there's like a zombie apocalypse outside and on his door is interesting.
There has,
and can be quite cool.
It's been done. There's a couple of films that I've been meaning to watch. There's one called Alive, which is a Netflix Korean film, which is a very similar concept. And the clips I've seen are quite fun. Like, he tries to climb out the window, like the neighbor's a zombie and you can see it through the, you know, they do interesting stuff. There's one that I think it might be a short film, and it's set in Paris. And you know, those like big apartments in Paris that overlook, like, it's a similar concept where, you know, so it's been done, and I'm sure those are, you know, something.
There's things like 10 Cloverfield Lane is absolutely brilliant. And that is just some people locked in a room while shit goes down outside.
Absolutely. The main thing is normally you need either a engaging lead who can talk to themselves like in a way that's coherent and kind of charismatic and makes sense, or you need some sort of connection with another character, whether it's remotely or there's more characters there. This doesn't have any of those things.
Nope.
Some of the like not practical, some of the visual effects I could give, you know, a pass to if the other parts were okay. Yeah,
but then also some of them are like, they seem like a school project.
Yeah, it's incredibly low budget. And most of the
and they reuse clips a lot.
Like, a lot of this is like, he's in the apartment, he has a bit of a moment to himself, he tries to go outside, and even though he's this big tough guy who we've seen like fight 4 guys at the start, he then just like runs back inside, spends another 20 minutes talking to himself, doing like a vlog, like you said. And then something happens, like someone even like, I think what they were trying to do with a lot of it was have like, you know, the thing where like someone's tormented by like almost like a Christmas Carol thing where like it's a psychological thing of like, you've done wrong things. I'm someone from your past and you're going a bit mad and then something happens. But it's so like ineffective and just weak that like when someone comes and knocks on the door and talks to him, you're like, I don't really understand what's going on. And like it's so obvious that this isn't the person you think it is. And why, like, if you're so tough, like, why don't you go fight? Like, he's having all these weird issues that we don't really understand. And he keeps being like, I don't know, it's just is I think a lot of this was completely like unscripted and they just went like, you just like improv a load of the dialogue, or he couldn't remember his lines and just made stuff up. But
quite possibly.
It's just like the ending, although it was really contrived and like you could see it coming a mile off in some ways, because he got from the first situation to the main plot with like no explanation at all. And I just kept thinking like, what's going on here? And there's like the weird bit where he like imagines having sex with his girlfriend and then she's just not there. And you're like, what's going on there?
Yeah. And like, they've tried to be really clever with some bits like that. Yeah. And they've just not pulled it off because it's literally like surface level thinking. They've not
No.
delved in at all to anything.
No, like, this is what I mean. Like, even with like a creepy, you know, occult possession thing, sometimes they do it like where, like the possessed person will be like taunting them with like bad memories, or they're like, oh, you're a bad person. They try and do that, and they try and do creepy stuff in the apartment, but like they don't commit to anything.
And we don't know any of his backstory. So like, yeah, it opens with like this SEAL team going to some European country.
And this part reminded me of Metal Beast a lot. It's basically the same intro. Yeah.
And they say it's Project Legion. They do the whole Black Death, 666 years.
Yeah.
And they go into some area. A drone explodes.
And
there's some noises.
We get introduced to like a team, but then they're just
fucking god awful
that
acting.
guy that's like, when I thought we were going to Spain, I was thinking of bullfighting and sexy senoritas.
Like, fucking hell.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're all like UFC fighters, and that's fine. But you know, you can be one thing, and you don't have to be an actor as well. Not everybody. And then there's suddenly just like a face in the ground, and some smoke
like
comes
two
out.
of them disappear, and this main guy, Greg's like, to me, because he's getting a bit scared.
And then the other one's like, to you.
There's the ground starts moving, and there's a face, and then like there's a black smoke around
like
it, and then we get a hard cut, and it's like,
and the title maybe that would have made sense, but maybe not.
I don't remember seeing a title card.
I don't think there's a title in this at all.
No, but then it comes up several months later, and he's at a bar, and he's this is his friend Mills. He's like wearing these glasses, not because he needs them, because he makes him look intelligent.
No, but then they do say, he does say, I do need them, and then that comes back later.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah. But
by this point, I was already.
There's this guy. This is like 10 minutes. There's this guy Mills, and he like is so obviously not friends with this guy Greg, who's the main guy. But they're just like hanging out and they're having drinks, and also Cindy is there.
Yeah, and it's like Greg keeps acting like Cindy's his girlfriend, and Cindy doesn't seem to be interested at all.
No,
I don't think they're actually together.
No, he's just like pining after her, but then Mills. One of his first lines is like, hey, that girl over there, I bet you I could kiss her by the end of the night.
And they're like, oh, what? And it's just this girl sitting by herself, like giving him the eyes. And it's like, yeah, like, of course. But then.
And also, Mills is supposed to be like this skinny nerd, because he keeps being like, you're a little skinny bitch. But he's like actually quite built. He's like a tall guy. He looks like a very slim, like athletic guy with glasses on. Like, he's not a nerd guy at all, you know.
And then like a fight breaks out for no reason.
Yeah, I think
they like bump into some guy, and he's like, who? And he's like, who? And they're like, let's punch.
And in the middle of it, like someone gives Greg a shot, and he's like, oh yeah. And the fight pauses for like 2 minutes while he does this shot, and then he keeps fighting, and like when it finishes, like it's okay. Like it's not a great fight, but it's not
bad.
Is it bad?
It's bad. It's really bad.
He's like smashing everyone into like the tables and stuff.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he's like 4 fireballs, and I'm like, I fucking hate this guy straight away. Like, I know Fireball is a popular drink in America, but it's not a good drink. What is it, like a whiskey liqueur with cinnamon, isn't it? Basically?
Something like that.
It's not a good drink. And then
just have a whiskey.
And his neighbour then some random woman just reaches between them and takes the 4th shot, which I assume is Greg's second shot.
And then she puts down a little like plastic tub with like pills in and was like, here's from the doctor, and walks off. And
he's like, that was my neighbour.
And Mills and Cindy are kind of looking confused, and Greg just takes them and takes the pills, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not how prescriptions work.
They give it to your next of kin. Just pass it on to you. And there's just like this awful like drunk acting.
He parks the car and like walks up, and
he's like slamming against the stairwell while he's walking, and he's like, hey, to like the cleaner, because it's like he's just come back from the hospital at this point. I think he's supposed to have left the hospital. I know there's more to it than this, but because he's talking to the cleaner as if he's not seen him for months, and the cleaner's just like, honestly, mate, just fuck off. Like,
which fair enough.
And he's like, I have to clean up all your mess. He's like, fuck off, mate.
Yeah, and then they get to like the corridor outside his flat, and he's apartment 213.
Right. Okay.
And I don't know if this is common in America, but there's a huge fucking fan at the end of the corridor. I spent half the film being like, what the hell is that hole?
It's an air conditioning thing.
I kept being like, what is that hole?
I think what it is when in America, when they add in the air conditioning, they just jam it in like a window. So they pull down the window. And because the creatures in this are sensitive to light, it means we get a bit of light through without the full light from the window. I think that's what they were going for.
Maybe our American listeners can fill me in on this. But with those air-conditioned blocks that they're having windows, do they just fall out if people open the window?
I've seen enough comedy things where that happens that I think it is, it is a risk.
A terrible design, right?
Yeah, because it is literally, I think you're supposed to clamp it on somehow. Maybe either side, nail it, like screw it in. But I've seen it in things where you just kind of rest it.
Can you not close your window then?
Well, the air is fresh that's coming through.
But what about when it gets like winter?
Then you, I guess, carefully pull it inside.
Seems like
no.
Maybe I'm just being an ignorant foreigner. Please
enlighten us.
Please enlighten us.
So now we get like what I thought was going to be a really like over the top sex scene, and it's a little bit too much for what it is.
He wakes up in his bed and there's this woman,
which is Cindy.
Cindy in like this red lingerie,
red like one-piece lingerie, and she's like woo, and she's like crawling on him, and then like there's like it's not very like graphic, but like it's enough where he's like going down between her legs and like he throws the pants
off. It reminded me of the
then the covers are like over them while having sex.
It reminded me of the sex scene in The Room.
Yes, it was very like that actually. Yeah,
which if anyone's in The Room, known to be like the worst film ever.
Yeah,
that is kind of the standard we're at here.
Yes, yeah. Not quite as long as that. I think that one's like 4 minutes long.
Yeah, that is just looped for it. But he then wakes up again to like banging at the door,
and she's lying next to him at this point. And then he kind of passes out and wakes up again. And then one of the times she's not there.
But some pills are. And he takes some more pills.
What's wrong with this guy?
She's not there.
Well, that's what we're trying to find out, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's more banging at the door. He eventually makes his way to the door.
Yeah.
After this like, so they're doing the whole like, oh, he's hungover, he doesn't want to wake up.
Yeah.
And he's grouchy, he doesn't want to go open the door. But this goes on for like fucking like 5 minutes.
Everything.
Him just like.
How long is this film? Like an hour and 20?
Hour and a half.
I reckon you cut half an hour of this film easily.
Oh, easy.
Probably
cut an hour out of this film. Fucking hell.
Like, so what they're trying to do with this whole thing is we've spoken about Shutter Island before, and we've spoken about the Lazarus Project film, where it's this kind of questioning reality and what's going on. They try and do a bit of that here with like, was Cindy lying on the bed?
But it's so blatant. You never at one point did I think this man is sane.
No. Especially as like within minutes he's babbling to himself.
Yeah.
yeah.
I was very on and off with putting subtitles in this.
I had subtitles on by default, and I just didn't take them off.
I turned them off, and then I was like, he's just mumbling to himself, and I was like, actually, I don't care enough.
Well, maybe I caught some bits you didn't then, so that's good. But yeah, so what happens here? Because I've written zombie noises screaming. Does he open the door?
He opens the door and there's no one there.
Right.
And he calls like, Karen, is that you? And then hears a scream. Right. And he's like, okay. And then he goes back in and his lamp and his TV are acting weird. Right. Like the lamp's flicking on and off. Yeah. And the TV's just like not working or doing static. And it's like, and then he wanders over to his window and the whole fucking town's on fire. Fucking hell, Craig. I know you've just woken up, but
he slept through a lot. It's kind of like a 28 Days Later is what they're going for, isn't it? Like he's missed the big
apocalypse. Yeah.
What was it? I feel like we watched something else recently that was like someone misses the maybe not. Anyway. Yeah, my most of my notes in this is like there's lots of noises.
There is just loads of random noises, and I kept pausing it because
you thought there was like noises.
Because I live in like the fairly centre of a city.
You live like in this place where he lives. Don't you?
Like sometimes I hear shit going on outside, which I'm like, oh, let's have a look. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, I remember living in town. Yeah,
the sound design in this is so bad. You can't tell whether it's in the film or not.
And that sounds like a compliment, but it's so like badly layered that like it's not almost. They don't make it like, you know, when you do like peripheral sound in the editing and make it seem like it's from outside of the room that they're in. It just sounds like it almost sounds like you've got like another thing playing on the TV.
Yeah.
Or like you've left your phone playing.
And like several layers of these random noises.
And most of it is like either zombie noises, screaming, or like whispering, but like not in an effective.
And the odd like explosion.
Yeah.
He then goes on his laptop, which also isn't working, and it's like, okay, but he doesn't learn from that. He doesn't learn that his laptop's not working.
On it about 5 more times.
Then we see that there's a zombie. I've called them zombies throughout this. I think they're meant to be demons, but I've written zombies.
They look like a little bit. What I first thought is, do you remember in Suicide Squad where there's like the mud men that Enchantress makes? Yeah, they're kind of just like all black, but in this they're a bit more like burnt people.
Yes, I thought that zombies in a world where everyone died in a fire.
Right, yeah. I think it's more of like a hell thing, isn't it, really? But yeah, and they've got this quite bad smoke effect, and you can very much tell they've got like 2 different dancers to just do kind of weird modern interpretive dance, like twisting around. And it's supposed to be like it's the Exorcist
walking
thing,
on your hands and feet,
that they've slightly sped up, so it's like
and then reversed it so she goes back. He gets a knife and then he makes like a little flamethrower.
And the gap under his door is so big.
Yeah, he lays on the floor to have a look outside. And like you can see half his face from under the door. Yeah.
This is another thing for American listeners. Please let us know how big the gap is. Lewis, look at that door there. How big is that gap?
That's like
2 centimeters.
Yeah, at most. Enough that like if you had a rug, that would be blocked off.
If your front door, not to the outside world, but
I've seen pictures of American toilets, and you go to American toilet and you just see everyone having a shit, which I've always thought is weird. If this is a door thing as well, like surely the gaps aren't that big. But you see like it in some TV shows sometimes where they like slide a mirror under the door to have a look, which I always thought like, there's not, you can't really look under a door.
But on an internal door, I mean, like as in within your apartment, fair enough, maybe. But it's still a bit weird, but yeah, like fucking hell. Like you could reach. You could, like a baby could almost crawl under it, you know? Like if a baby's head was a bit smaller.
Like a kitten could definitely go under.
Oh yeah, like any
snake could go under that.
A spider.
Like the snakes we've got in here.
A rat. What else could? Probably a fish. Small crocodile.
But like a lizard. It's a big gap. It's a big old gap.
You know what you could fit? You could fit that PlayStation 4 under that gap.
Yeah, probably.
Hey, you borrow my PlayStation 4.
Yeah, just slide it under the door.
That coffee cup.
he then shoots the flamethrower under the door,
and the thing's like, I'm already burnt, but I'm gonna run away.
At this point, he doesn't actually know what's out there.
He just thinks there's like people. I guess the town's on fire, so
and his light bulb explodes, and cool.
And I think outside there's a big explosion as well, or something like that.
I've written here that I'm really dragging this scene out, and I don't know if it's this scene or just every scene.
Well, at this point, he's like concerned about his fish tank, and it looks like it's empty. But then he mentions later that he's got a goldfish, so I don't.
He tries talking to his fish, and then gets bored and gets an axe.
And then he's got a note from his parents, which he starts reading, and it's like, "Dear son, blah blah blah," and then it's like, "You son of a bitch, you better do well from dad." And also this guy looks like he's like 48 years old. But then he says later that the place he lived in before was his mum's basement. So I just don't know. Like, I think he's only supposed to be about 35. But we haven't even described him. Like, he looks like a UFC fighter. He's like kind of a smallish, stocky white guy.
A bit of a Jason Statham kind of.
Bit of a Jason Statham, bit of a Conor McGregor look, I would say.
Yeah,
like he's got quite a kind of bushy beard. And he's got a bushy beard, yeah, and like a crop.
Yeah, no, and very receding hairline with like an island.
Jason Statham meets Conor McGregor. Kind of thing. Yeah.
We then get the clip of the zombie outside the dancer on all fours, but they've just reversed the clip. She goes back down the corridor, and it
is almost like he gets the axe, and and then we a lot of it is like him doing something, and then a zombie like sneaking around outside.
Yeah.
Oh no, this is when he does go outside.
He goes outside,
and there's a demon zombie just like following him really slowly behind him, and it's supposed to be like, oh, this is ominous. But like he doesn't notice it, and then his neighbour's there.
Yeah, Karen, who we saw at the bar giving him the pills, and she's like half zombified.
Yeah, she looks like she's like kind of bleeding from her face and stuff.
She looks like someone who's put in minimal effort on a Halloween party.
Very much so, yeah. Maybe even down to the white top with blood on it.
Like we were at a Halloween party last year, and some people did some zombies that looked better than this.
Were there zombies at that party?
No, there was one or two.
Okay, I'll believe you that. There's some pretty good costumes in that party.
There were. But yeah, she's like, go away, and her voice is becoming like demon-y.
Yeah. And then she's just like, Greg, go, Greg, go, Greg.
Yeah.
Almost like she's cheering him on, but in a demon voice.
And then these other zombies kind of appear and slowly walk towards him. And his door like slams, and it's like, and he runs over and spends fucking days trying to unlock it, whilst these zombies just kind of.
It was about like realistically about a minute and a half of him trying to open this door.
Yeah, and the zombies like, do you need a hand with that? Do you need a hand? I think I've got a spare set here. Do you want me to try these keys? Do you want to climb under the door? Is that fucking space?
We'll push you if you like. He's got this axe as well, and he's supposed to be ex-marine according to that.
He keeps getting these weapons and never using them.
And he keeps saying at one point, he's like, "Where's my gun? Oh, I left it in my truck. Oh, where's my gun? I left it in my truck." It's like, yeah, we understand that. Maybe you should have just had your gun with you, because this film would have been much more. Does he use it later?
No, because you can't get into his truck.
I don't remember.
Yeah, he gets in, and then he hears a noise in his flat and goes looking around, and there's a zombie in his flat because
the door was open, I guess.
Yeah, and it like it's quite funny because he looks in the wardrobe and there's nothing there, and he walks off, and then the zombie comes out of the wardrobe on all fours, and then jumps up and like puts its like leg over like his neck, like a proper gymnast kind of thing.
Yeah. And there's a bit of like a wrestle on the bed.
Yeah,
and it's like a woman zombie. I don't know if it's supposed to be a bit of a sexual thing.
It felt like it.
Yeah,
like
it feels like what is it? Goldeneye, when she's doing like the choking them with her legs thing, you remember?
Oh yeah.
Famke Janssen or whatever. What's she called? Jean Grey. It's her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Famke Janssen.
Famke Janssen. That's what I think she's called anyway.
Yeah.
Famke.
But he sets her alight with his makeshift.
No, the sun does it, doesn't it? I think I think the sun comes through, but he doesn't. Well, maybe a combination of two. I'm pretty sure something happens with the curtains, and like the sun gets it.
But we see people out on his zombies on his balcony later on.
That's when it's dark, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Unless I completely got it wrong.
We then get this shot of the outside, and it's like this clear. It's this alley with some like tires and stuff, and it's just this single shot of the alley where someone has taken that picture, put it in PowerPoint, and put some flame effects on the tires, and it goes on for quite a bit. It's good, like 30 seconds of this shot, and I was like, wow,
the fire effects in this are awful.
Fucking awful.
And it's the same with the smoke effects. They've clearly just like done like a connect smoke effect to this person.
Yeah,
like I'm not being big-headed when I say I'm sure I could do better effects than this.
There's lots of stuff in this film that I could do better.
Yeah.
Acting, directing, special effects, script writing,
probably soundtrack too. Don't remember the soundtrack.
Sound editing.
I think there wasn't much music in this from what I remember.
But then
he's now doing his first vlog, isn't he?
He's like, I think this might be a dream. And then he takes,
does he say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he takes some more pills and he starts like barricading the flat.
Yeah. And is this when
he only seems to do like half his barricading? He then goes and does some more later on.
Yeah, and then he takes it off later as well. And this is when Karen's knocking at the door. And he has a conversation with her, and she's like, "I'm not Karen," and it's like she's kind of like the embodiment of what's going on.
Yeah,
she kind of seems like she might be the devil, but then at one point she's like, "We are Legion," and it's like she's the whole shebang, basically.
And
but
this bit when he's talking to her, and he's like, "You're not Karen." He keeps really weirdly touching the door. Did you notice that? It's like he's gone to punch it, and then just taps on the door, and he's like, tap.
I think he had this really clear idea of this unhinged persona that he wanted to do, and he really is committing to it. And I will say that, but it's just so weird. Like he keeps repeating stuff. He's almost doing this like almost dated thing of like a mentally ill person.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like he's doing this weird tics and stuff, and he keeps saying like she's like, "We want you," and he misinterprets it as like a sexual advance, and he's like, "No, you're too young. I have Cindy. You're too young. I have Cindy. You're too young." And then he's like, he says something like, "Where are my friends?"
The voices of her.
It is like a Tommy Wiseau thing in some ways. Like I wouldn't have been surprised if he was behind the making of some of this film. Like it almost feels like why else would you have him in the lead role? Like
and you mentioned that he started doing his vlogging thing where he literally has explained the plot of the film up until this point, essentially. And then after he's had this conversation where he's weirdly stroking the door with Karen, he then goes back to his laptop and records the conversation, talks about the conversation he had with Karen. And I'm like, I've just fucking watched this scene. Why are you telling me what just happened?
Yeah, he's still questioning it at this point. And this is what I mean. Like there's this and there's a bit later where it feels like it's a comment on COVID and the whole like you have to be staying. This is only because of what you mentioned about the COVID denying stuff. Like you're forced to stay inside and you have to isolate, and he's questioning it and he's online talking about it. But the next vlog that he does, which I don't mind skipping ahead, he's like, "This is real, and he keeps saying it because he's had an experience outside, which we could talk about in a sec. But if this is like an anti-COVID thing, it's not proving his point because it's real. But it's not real. So maybe that's where it's going. But yeah. So then he decides to go outside properly, doesn't he?
No, before that, the door latch comes off and some zombies try forcing their way in, and he pushes them back out. Yeah. And then after that happens, he decides to then go out there because that's a sensible decision.
I guess he's like, what you would think is like, he's like, oh, I'm not safe in here. But then obviously within 5 minutes he's back in. But he's suddenly
there's
down.
Before he goes down, there's a weird thing going on with the numbers of the doors. So he's 213.
Right.
Then one of the others says 213, and he looks back to his and it says 123. And looks back to the other one and back to his, and they're switching.
I don't think I understood what that was about, to be honest. I wasn't. You know what I was doing?
We get told at the end.
I was playing Animal Crossing while I was watching this film.
I've got a bit here. I think it's the next video bit saying he's given the audience.
Well, he goes down.
Let's do that. Yeah.
He goes downstairs because he goes downstairs and he goes to like an underground car park thing.
Yeah. And
this reminded me of like lots of zombie things, and the whole time he's walking along, you can see one of these dancer zombies like sneaking up behind him, and it's like there's absolutely no tension at all. It's almost funny, like how this person in like black all in one is like hiding behind a column and stuff like that.
Yeah,
he gets to his car and he's trying to I think he's trying to get in, he's trying to hotwire it, And because I don't know why he can't get in, and he kind of gives up. And he turns around and there's a couple of them there. He has a little, very brief fight with the axe. Is that he kind of hits them a bit?
Sure, why not?
Oh yeah, and then he like goes like berserker mode, and he starts punching one, and then he like uses his hand as like a dagger, and he's like pushing it into it off screen. Like you can see he's like splayed his fingers out, and he's going like this, and then all this black blood is like shooting on him. For the rest of the film, he's got this weird like war paint made of this black.
Yeah.
Anyway, then he's like, well, obviously, I should go back to my flat now because that's the only other set we've got in this film.
And as he goes back up, there's a dead guy on the stairs we saw before who wakes up.
Oh, yeah. And I think on the way down, he like thought he was going to wake up and it was like, oh, this guy's alive. And when he's on the way up, because he's like fired up, he just starts punching this guy on the floor.
Oh,
I think that's why he gets up because he started attacking this dead guy.
Other zombies attack him as well.
Yeah.
And he defeats them. And then Karen's waiting outside his door and he stabs her.
I don't remember that.
Nor do I, but I've got it written down.
And then this is his third vlog.
Yeah, I've written down here, he gives the audience another update. And at this point, even though this is like the fourth time where he's just explained what's just happened in the film.
Yeah.
I've written down like, it's quite handy he's doing this because I'm barely watching the film at this point.
Absolutely. I was more listening to this film than watching it, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I take notes on my phone and I was switching tabs on my phone between this and Reddit, and I was like, every time something half interest happened, I just switch over and like, because I cannot put into words how shit and boring this film is.
It's so bad.
And like we've watched plenty of shit films, and I really, really try to give them my full attention to like get proper notes.
There's normally something that keeps your attention. It's normally so bad it's good, or it's funny, or.
But I think because Greg kept telling us what had happened in the film, I think I was like, oh, I don't need to watch this. I just focus on when he's talking to his laptop because
the next bit, so he does this whole like he suddenly realizes that it's real because he went outside. I don't really know, doesn't really make sense. He keeps going, this is real, and
so I think he was thinking that he was just having a weird moment, like tripping balls or something. But now that he's gone out,
he keeps taking these pills that people keep leaving him. Probably that. But no, then this bit here was the one bit that I did kind of like.
Is this
in the film, the TV station bit? And this, I've seen this done better, and this is an example that I was trying to think of earlier. So his main TV doesn't work. He's got like a modern TV, and that was the one you mentioned. And he's like, I'll see if my other TV works.
Yeah.
Why would it work? He gets like an old TV, and he puts it up on the counter, and we don't see him plug it in. We assume he's plugged it in. And it tunes into just audio. It's like static on the TV.
Yeah, and we hear like hell has been released.
Yeah, it's like
Doom is here. They're setting fire to City Hall.
Yeah, and then it kind of gets a bit political where it's like they're coming for your children. They're coming into your school. I think it's like the army are coming to get people, but it's a bit unclear if he's talking about the good guys or the bad guys. It's very like.
And there's this the camera like pans over a bit.
Well, no. Then it kind of goes like it gets a bit like personal, as if the TV guy's talking directly to him. And then it pans over and the TV's not plugged in at all.
And it was like, oh, okay.
And it's like that was, and this is the kind of thing like I think there's this game Alan Wake, which is like about this writer who goes away to this weird town. It's a bit Twin Peaksy. It's like David Lynch weird shit. And in that, like the darkness that's encroaching keeps like speaking to him through TV and stuff.
Right,
and it's very personal. And it's like, like fuck you. And like, here's a thing of your mum dying and all that kind of shit. And this is the one kind of part that kind of worked for me in that sense. So I was kind of like, I like this.
This guy is insane. And he doesn't fully realize is a cool concept.
Or even like the devil, whatever it is, talking to him through it. Like that was the one bit where you're like, what is going on here? Like, is it? But then they just go into the next bit.
Like I've seen that done better in like Doctor Who.
Exactly, yeah. Even that. It's
and
like the
Doctor Who's a cheap.
It's
TV
like the
program.
Evil talks to you through technology / are you mad kind of trope, isn't it? And then in the next bit, he puts a sombrero on and starts taping skulls and dolls to his window. Do you remember that?
Yeah, he's doing some more barricading as well. He puts up like planks of wood on his window. And then starts taping.
I think it's supposed to be like an occult thing. Like he's
he was also taping the fucking wood to his windows, and I was like, that's not gonna do shit.
No.
And this bit, once he puts all these dolls and skulls goes up, he goes, "Let's go!"
Yeah, it's like the Shia LaBeouf thing where he used to do that me.
And I was like, what the fuck is
and
he
he
doing?
starts dancing around. Like at this point, it's like this guy is like completely off the wall.
But it's such bad, crazy acting.
And it's even though he seems unhinged the whole time, it still comes out of nowhere. It's not like
like did you mention like Shutter Island? Is set in like a mental institution. You come across lots of mentally unwell people. And it's really believable, and it's really quite like it's tense, it's scary.
And even the bits that are a bit stereotypical aren't anywhere near the levels of this.
This is almost like the Simpsons. No TV, no food, make home a girl.
No beer.
Oh yeah, no TV, no beer, make home a girl.
Something.
Go crazy. Don't mind if I do. It's literally like, and then like that bit. That's what he's doing here. That's the Simpsons taking the piss.
Yes.
Where they're trying to do this properly.
And then suddenly there's a friend at the window. I don't know about you. I thought that window just went down to the street.
Yeah. I was suddenly really confused about the layout of this.
Because suddenly it's like a motel, like a stereotypical motel where you've got entrances in from the balcony, like a long balcony that's joined. Why is he not been going out there?
Yeah. Because we see there's a door there as well. Has he got two doors? But he describes it as his balcony. But it is like one long motel like balcony thing.
I think it's supposed to be a bit like mind-bending kind of stuff.
It's not.
Anyway, it's his little supposedly scrawny nerd friend Nils or whatever he's called.
And Greg Mills says like, "Oh, the army are here," and Greg is absolutely shocked that the army are here, and I was like, why is this like the craziest thing you've heard today?
Is it like a don't tread on me like freedom thing?
But he was in some kind of SWAT team. He then turns on Mills and is like, "You're trying to sleep with my girl Sydney. Where's Sydney?"
Yeah,
Mills she's downstairs
because he mentions her like as if like I've got her safe, and he's not having, because in the first scene, well, the second scene in the bar, there's a whole thing of like, don't you dare hit on my girlfriend, and it's like you say, she's not his girlfriend basically. Yeah. And then the thing that makes this guy outside Mills is like being more and more like transparently like deceptive, like come outside, it's all fine. I mean, it's not fine, it's horrible out here, but you need to come out here.
Let's stick together.
And then the thing that catches him out is the glasses thing, which is what I mentioned earlier. He doesn't have glasses on, and Greg's like, "Why haven't you got your glasses on?" And the guy's like, "Oh, I've got perfect vision." And Greg's like, "You told me in that second scene that you don't have perfect vision." And that's what makes him realize that this very obviously demonic guy outside is a demon, basically.
Yeah, and then his like zombie friends come along. He's like, "Break down that door," and they start smashing the door.
And then he does another vlog, I think. And he's getting, he has like a Blair Witch vlog where he's getting a bit introspective, and he's like, "Cindy, I love you, and I wish I'd told you." And he's like, "If you come back to Detroit with me, you can live in my mum's basement with me."
He gets really obsessed with Detroit for some reason.
And he's like, "Baba Ganoush is so good, and you would love it." So it's like she might have had it before. Like it's a thing people know about. It's
the director, his other film that was also bad, is set in Detroit. So I think he's from Detroit. Right, so that's probably why he's like, "Detroit's great."
Yeah.
Detroit's not great.
I've heard all good things.
I will talk about Detroit in personal projects, actually.
Really? Okay, cool.
At one point he sees some movement in his shower and there's nothing there.
Yeah, and then I think it's there again.
And then he goes back to have another chat with Mills, and he's like, "Mills, go away."
Yeah.
And the zombies are attacking the door, and it's like, "Wait, we've just done this scene.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this scene again?"
And then I think suddenly Mills/Legion is just like in the flat. Is that right?
No, first.
Or do they break in?
First.
He has to fight with the shower one or something, does he?
He sees moving in the shower, but he does another video. Yes. And he's "I'm hungry and tired. I'm going to go to Detroit." I was like, okay. And Mills is like, "Oh, no, join us." and then they get in somehow.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know, probably because he's barricaded his door with masking tape
and sombreros.
And Mills like grabs him, and this bit is so fucking weird. I
don't remember what happened.
Right, so there's 2 zombies and Mills in there, and the zombies are kind of watching, and they tussle for a bit, and then Greg and Mills are like holding each other on the shoulders.
That's how you fight, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. And they start talking to each other, and Miller's like, join us. He's like, no, I'm going to Detroit. And whilst he's doing that, he makes like a Molotov cocktail.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And he's doing that whilst he's having this conversation with Mills.
I think he did a bit of it earlier on. But
and then they kind of like back off a bit from each other, and they kind of look at each other. And then he like puts down the Molotov cocktail on the floor and walks out the door. And Mills is like watching him like, hey, no, you need to join us. And then the whole thing explodes. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? That's not how any of that should work. Why have they not killed him? Why have they let him put a Molotov cocktail down? Why is he just allowed to walk out the door?
Well, I mean, I'm sure there'll be reasons for it, Lewis, as we get further on to this, the last few lines.
He jumps off the balcony. And then we get some street zombies.
Yes.
And this CGI is really bad. Yes. This makes those other zombies look really good.
Yeah.
Because...
Are they like transplanted into the scene or something? Though I can't really remember.
It's like this. It's like a Getty Images of a street with some fire effects, and like some,
and like they've got like the
same some PS2 characters,
they've got like the same one dancer, and like put them like 4 times in the scene, and then he ends up going in a bin. Doesn't he?
Yeah. Why? He sees a bin, and I'm like, I'm gonna hide in there. Why?
And then this is the one bit where they got more than one actor, because there are clearly a few outs, like all knocking on the bin, going,
all knocking on the bin.
And then he turns on his light, and there's one in the bin with him.
It's like, why is that zombie just chilling, just being like, I just wanted to take 5, and he goes to attack him, then he climbs out with ease.
Yeah, and then he just runs, and then he goes into a bar. It must be his bar that he...
Yeah, it's the bar from earlier.
Because it's the same set from earlier.
Yeah, and everyone's there. Mills, Cindy,
it's like
Karen.
It's like the end of the Wizard Oz, and he's like, Wizard Oz. The Wizard Oz, where he's like, all my friends were there. What? You're my friend, and you're my friend, and you're my friend, and you're my... It's like 4 people that we've seen throughout the film are all just here.
And I'm pretty sure Karen and Cindy, and Karen doesn't know Cindy and Mills based on the bar earlier.
No.
But then
they're all just there in this
They're
bar.
just normal. And then they hold him down.
And then they say like vaguely like, he's coming too or whatever, and you're like, oh, it's one of those ones.
He seats up and he's in a secret facility, and it's bam, it was all a fucking dream.
Yeah.
Can you believe in 2022 they made a film where the plot twist at the end was it was all a dream?
It was kind of a dream. It was an experiment.
Yeah, he was patient 213, which is why he was apartment
and
number.
I think they literally go, that wasn't your door number, that was your patient number or something like that. And it's like, oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't get that.
Yeah.
The fact that you showed the door number several times and then say, you're patient 213.
And then they're like, it was an experiment. I think they say, this is Project Legion.
Yeah, and Project Legion has failed.
Yeah, and then
he Ghost Riders.
He starts getting angry, and they try and give him some pills. Why are they giving him pills? Inject him, obviously. Pills take like 30 minutes to work at minimum. He goes angry and pushes them away. Yeah, they go, Project Legion's failed. And as you say, he gets a bit angry and turns into a bit of a Ghost Rider.
Yeah, and then it explodes.
And I guess what happened in this film? Like, what actually happened? So they were in Spain. He trod on a body, he got infected, and then they took him to a lab. Did that bit at the start happen?
Yes.
Right, I thought so, yeah. But then they say that Project Legion was the name of the Special Forces Black Ops. Wait, actually, let me see, because I wrote something weird.
They do say it was the name of the Special Ops.
It was a secret society Black Ops team they mentioned.
What?
That was unnecessary, wasn't it? But so Project Legion... But the Legion part refers to the fact that it's the legion of demons within him. Like the biblical Legion is like a guy with all the demons, like a horde of demons in him. So did they intentionally send people, because they gave them pills before do you think they sent them to try and capture the Legion or something? It doesn't.
Maybe.
But either
none
way,
of it makes
then
any
the
sense.
whole middle bit was like the internal conflict of Legion trying to take over, I guess.
Yeah.
And then it failed. And then I guess the real apocalypse happens at the end.
No, I don't think it does.
Well, it explodes.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. I think he just...
Well, he died. No, because they're like, Project Legion's failed. So I think like the fire is the demons coming out of him.
Oh, maybe.
That's a bit...
I don't really care,
yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
I was so done with this film at this point. I was like, of course it was all a dream. And
I mean, to be honest, no, I would have rathered like a big devil turn up and yeah. But a devil isn't a legion, is it? So,
no, but literally anything.
No, it was really, 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 really bad. And I'm glad that our episode so far is only about an hour and 10 minutes because at least we've saved you some time on this. And we probably could have talked about this for the same run length, but it would have been
if either of us could be bothered, we should clip together all the bits that he's talking to his laptop. And it will explain the entire film to you.
I would do that, but I don't think that my effort would be rewarded in views in any way. So, no.
I would do it, but I don't want to sit through this film again because this was one of my worst experiences of the year so far.
It was really not very good, was it? No, at all. No. Well, we took a chance, didn't we? That's the main thing.
Yeah, it was fucking awful. Like, it was acted poorly, it was directed poorly, it was written poorly.
Yeah.
The sets didn't make sense. And like they're trying to do this whole like he's going crazy thing, but it's not interesting enough to like captivate you.
The thing is, so not to be like, this is how it should have been done, but this is how it should have been done. So, right, you open with him at the bar with his friend, make him actually friends with him, set the relationship up with Cindy. Maybe it was a missed connection or whatever. Maybe they slept together once, whatever. Have that happen as an opening, 5-10 minutes. Then he goes on the mission. Do the mission. Maybe on the mission he talks to his friends like, oh, I've had such a bad life. I lived in my mum's basement. I also missed out on the love. Have the thing happen. And then we've immediately set up why he could be a bit messed up. Do you know what I mean? And then you could even do the rest of the film the same. And at least I'd be like, oh, I kind of get where there's some... Do you know what I mean?
Still need to be... But yeah...
or maybe have him come back to...
The fact that we're constantly questioning his own like insanity and stuff. Yeah. It's like, but I don't know anything about this guy. Like
exactly.
All I know is that he goes to a bar and he lives in this apartment and he was on some special ops mission.
And the fact that he just starts to fight with random people makes him incredibly unlikable immediately.
Yeah.
And he's like telling his friend that he's a dick, and he's like, you can't hit on this girl because she's mine, and she's like very clearly not giving him like the signals back. It just makes maybe some people find that as a likable protagonist, but maybe that's what this guy is like in real life, and maybe that's why.
Maybe that's why he's working for Ben Shapiro.
Based on what you said, I would not be surprised in some ways, but it just was not good.
I got the only 2 bits from IMDb trivia.
Please.
One is that the working title was Apartment 213.
Okay, I mean,
I wish it was called that because then I wouldn't have had to watch it.
I almost said the other way around, but yeah, no, I didn't say it because you're absolutely right. Yeah.
And it's Donald Cerrone's first lead role. Shocker.
And last.
Yeah.
Oh, apparently not. He's going to be in something with, or has that already been out? The Gina Carano thing.
Oh, yeah, that's already.
But he's not a lead. He's not a lead.
I think he is a lead. It's him and Gina Carano, which goes to show how much her career has fallen. She was a central character in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And now she's doing films with this guy.
I will say, that I never found her acting particularly great.
No.
And I don't think anyone did, to be honest.
No, but she was passable. Like,
yeah.
She wasn't so bad that you kind of pulled you out. She was hit or miss. Like, she was nothing really.
We've spoken recently about the kind of trajectory of wrestler / UFC fighter to actor, and she is definitely on the lower scale.
Oh yeah, 100%.
The 3 admittedly male actors who are kind of dominating that,
John Cena and Dwayne Johnson,
are
better actors,
naturally better.
And
actors
John Cena and Dwayne Johnson aren't exceptional actors,
not
but
at all, no.
They played their roles well. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. They've got the thing is, it's because a lot of thing is she's a UFC fighter and they were wrestlers, and that's the difference.
Wrestling is acting.
Absolutely, there you go, spot on.
Yeah.
Anything much else to say before we give our ratings?
No.
One thing I will say, how low does our rating system go?
I was going to ask you that.
So I joked last week that I was going to give White Rabbit episode 4 or 5, whatever we were on, a 0.
Can something be a 0? What is a 0?
I don't think a 0 is a score for something. No. Because a 0 is a lack of score.
Yeah, okay.
So I think...
It's okay, so I'm giving it a...
We're giving it a 1.
I'm giving it a 1. I'll give it a 0.1. No, full numbers only, otherwise we'll get fucked. No, it's a 1. It's 100% a 1.
100%
I think this is the worst thing we've watched.
I think this might be the worst thing that I've watched.
I'm pretty sure I said that a few weeks ago, that this is the worst thing that we've watched. I can't remember what it was for.
No, I can't remember either. But I remember you saying... it wasn't White Rabbit, because White Rabbit has some redeeming features, hence why I put it
I'm having a quick look
put it as
at
a 3. I can't remember what it was. Oh,
Gemini was before
Christmas.
Oh, the Christmas project.
Christmas
that was
very,
really,
very bad,
really bad. Yeah, it must have been that. Since then, we've done Wolf Hunting, which was pretty good.
Yeah.
Big Wave was pretty good.
Yeah.
Extraordinary was good. Blue Earth is Blue Earth.
And it makes this...
And White Rabbit.
White Rabbit wasn't great, but this is a new low.
This is a new low.
For filmmaking in general, I would say. Like,
they talk about like certain films, like 2009's Avatar raised the bar in like special effects.
Technologically.
Jurassic Park did the same back in the 90s.
Yeah.
There's things like 2001 Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
Citizen Kane raised the bar for filmmaking. This is the Citizen Kane of bad films in that it lowered the standard to levels that I did not know existed.
I'm gonna have to note that down for the episode description.
I didn't know films could get this bad. And there we have it.
Citizen Kane of bad films. There we go. That saves me a little bit of the writing there.
This let's go watch the Science Project. We'll probably enjoy that more.
That was all right compared to this. And I like that, to be honest. I thought that was all right.
No, it wasn't.
We'll revisit it for episode 100.
I guess we can move on from this now.
I think we should move on, and we can put it in the past where it belongs.
Yes. So, which means it's now time for personal projects.
Were you going to say this time it's personal
projects?
So, Sam, what have you been watching, playing, listening, doing, creating, or anything else ending in ing?
Okay, yeah. Well, a couple of those things.
Okay.
One that I wasn't going to mention, actually, but you said creating. And since watching Lego Masters, I went and bought a starter set Lego thing. You can see it up there, Lewis. It's one of those yellow it's like a little kid's crate shaped like a yellow, a Lego box. And it comes with like 450 pieces or something, and had some quite good fun with that over the
imagination
last few
run
days.
wild.
And also got one of those, it's like Lego Creator 3-in-1 model things. It was the dinosaur one, which I built some bits and pieces, built a little like mecha guy, which is pretty good fun. But something I mentioned earlier on, Animal Crossing, the New Horizons one, which is the one for Switch, I got for Amy as a birthday present. And we both played a bit of that over the last few days. And I've been playing that today. Very good fun. Played it while watching Project Legion yesterday, which made that experience a little bit more bearable, to be perfectly honest.
I've watched Christina play a lot of Animal Crossing. It seems quite relax,
very much,
chill, don't need much.
It's a nice kind of
concentration.
It's one of those things where you can come back each day and like you do a little bit extra of what you need to do, and new things happen each time. But it doesn't feel like one of those things where, like with mobile games, where like if you don't go back the next day, like your crops fail or whatever. It's like the positive sides of the ongoing thing.
Did I ever tell you why Christina stopped playing Animal Crossing?
I don't think so.
She always had a policy that like, because now and then people on your island will ask to leave and go somewhere else.
Right, okay.
And she always just said yes. She was like, it's their wishes. And then her favourite character asked to leave, and she was like, yes, if he wants to go,
I'll
let him leave. And then after that, there was just a hole in the, and they kept making her really sad, so she stopped playing it.
Well, it just shows how emotionally invested these things get with it. No, it's very good fun. There's not too much to say that hasn't. I mean, it's probably like a 5-year-old game at this point. I have no idea how long it's been out for, but it's one of those. Yeah, the shop in it's always got new stuff. And
what's the name of the guy?
Tom Nook.
Tom Nook. That's
who's a bit of a crook. Tom Nook the crook feels very much like a cult leader / like mob boss CEO vibes with him. But yeah, I also watched Spy Kids 2. I mentioned Spy Kids a few weeks ago.
The Dinosaur Island
with the it's the Island of Lost Dreams. So they're all like combinations of things. So it's like the dinosaur ones are lizards, so they're snakes and lizards. There's spider monkeys, which is like the gorilla with spider legs.
Spy Kids 2 is the one with the great line from Steve Buscemi when he's like, maybe there is a god, but we don't see him because he's so appalled of his creation.
He's scared of his creation. He stays up in heaven. He just has this introspective moment where he looks out the window and you're like,
compares himself to God.
Yeah, very good.
Spy Kids 2 is good.
It is good, yeah. We're getting through them. I've not seen 4 because I think that's when they kind of recast and that sort of thing. But 3 is pretty good fun.
I remember a time years ago. This was back when we were at uni, when me and Christina, I think we were watching Jessica Jones, and it got a bit too deep,
bit intense.
So we decided to watch an episode of Rick and Morty, and it was the one where it ends with him trying to kill himself.
Oh, you're like, damn.
And we were like, fuck. So we ended up just watching all the Spy Kids films, getting progressively drunk. And that is easy fun.
It's a really good combination of like, it's got this weird like noughties turn of the millennium, like weird maximalist kind of aesthetic where like the spy place has weird floating platforms and like the letters of the like the windows spell out like SSE or whatever. It's SSO,
we mentioned a couple of weeks ago Ricardo Montalban, who plays Khan in Star Trek 2.
Right, and he plays the grandfather. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the cast is wild. And like in the first film when they go to the uncle, the real uncle, and it's Danny Trejo and he's Machete. And I said to Amy, oh yeah, that's the same Machete. And she was like, no, you're taking the piss. And I was like, no, that's the same
such
Machete.
A weird spin-off.
We went on this whole Wikipedia deep dive of Danny Trejo, and you probably know he's had a bit of a crazy life, but like he was like a drug dealer when he was like 9. Like he was in prison for like 20 years. Like he got his tattoos in prison. Then he like reformed and found faith. Started acting in like the 80s. It's just like he had an absolutely wild life. It's just,
and now he just plays like every like Mexican cartel guy.
Basically.
Well, he was in Breaking Bad for an episode, I think.
Yeah, he's the guy Tortuga. Yeah, who goes on and this explosion. I think he's like a guest character in number 2, episode season 2. And the last one that I wanted to go over very quickly is Small Soldiers, because I know you watched that.
Oh yeah, Small Soldiers. Great film.
Amy hadn't seen it. I had it on the list since when we talked about it before.
Yeah,
fantastic film. Absolutely like wild. Like it toes the line between like Toy Story and like Chucky, like Child's Play, and it gets quite dark. Like when they're actually attacking them and they're getting like shot in the legs with like spikes and stuff. And then the ending really threw me because it's Dennis, whatever he's called. He's the guy who plays Diego in Ice Age. Dennis Leary. And he's also Gwen Stacy's dad in the Amazing Spider-Man films. He comes along as the CEO and he just gives checks to everyone. And when it gets to the parents, you think like, oh, they're going to say no and get justice. And the dad's just like, no, this is more than enough. And then he says this one-off line like, we'll take these. There's some rebels in South America that would love these toys. And you're like, what? So they're just going to use them for warfare. It was a great ending. Like it really doesn't feel like it's kind of a family film, but it almost doesn't feel like
kind of got some darker tones to it.
I really enjoyed it. I've seen it plenty of times, but very good.
No,
so
it's good fun.
I've got a couple more to go into a bit more, but what have you been
So
watching?
I mentioned Detroit during the main part. Maybe the reason that was on my over the weekend I watched 8 Mile, which I had never seen before.
I don't know if I've seen it,
It's pretty good. It's obviously like a fictionalized version of Eminem's
like early
upbringing.
life,
I also didn't realize. I knew Anthony Mackie was in it. I didn't realize it was his first role.
Oh, was it? Okay, yeah.
I was like, oh, he's clearly better than some of the other people he's alongside.
Does he? They have a rap battle against
that's like the climax of the film. His gang, I can't remember what they're called, the Freedom Boys or something. It's something
Boys.
Freedom. Yeah, and it is. I've seen like clips of like the key bits before, but it is pretty good.
Does that soundtrack get you hyped up? It's pretty like boom, boom.
Yeah, and then like when the credits hit and Lose Yourself comes on, you're like, yeah.
So that's not what he raps in the final.
No,
it's like a freestyle.
It's a freestyle thing, and his rap is basically shitting on himself. So he's like, yeah, now what are you gonna say about me, kind of thing. Which I've seen that clip a few times, and it is good. And Eminem's a pretty good actor. I know he's essentially playing a fictionalized version of himself.
Yes,
but he's pretty good.
Yeah,
and it's like also it's weird. So Michael Shannon, plays his mum's boyfriend,
right?
And I was like, okay. And then in the story, it turns out that he was in the same year at school as Eminem's character, and I was like, that's weird because Michael Shannon looks a lot older. But it turns out Eminem's older than Michael Shannon.
That's weird, yeah.
And I was like, he's looked like a middle-aged man for like 30 years.
But Eminem generally looks quite young.
Yeah, he's got a bit of a baby face.
Yeah, he does.
So that's probably it. But I was like, that's quite funny that he looks significantly older, but he actually is the age. But yeah, 8 Mile, it's pretty good. I also I've watched season 1 of Alice in Borderland.
Right, yeah.
Have you seen it?
No, I've seen it pop up on TV. I think it was post Squid Game. It had a bit of a popularity.
Yeah, which is the similarities.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. I think the first half of well, I've only seen season 1. The first half of the season is like really good when they're trying to discover what's going on and stuff, and there's different games and stuff.
Right.
As it gets towards the end, it drags a bit, and the last episode, it was an hour long and it felt half hour too long.
Did it? Yeah.
But then I've heard that season 2 starts slow and then really gets into it. So I'm quite looking forward to it.
That's
but it is worth watching.
I think it's based on manga.
On
yeah. I feel like I've seen
I watched it dubbed, and the dubbing's bad.
But sometimes it's more accessible that way, isn't it? It's just,
but the actual the story, Christina cried at one episode.
Really? Okay,
I think it's like episode 3 or 4. But it is really good. It's quite like inventive with the stuff they do.
Yeah, I don't really know. I know it's a bit like they're in a game or whatever and they don't know what's going on. It's a bit of a reality thing or something, but I don't need to know too much. You know, if it's good, I might give it a try.
No, it's the essential. They him and his friends go to this like alternate world where there's random people, and they have visas that last a few days. And if your visa runs out, you get killed. And to extend your visa, you have to go play these games. And they're all based on cards. So like a heart card means it's like an emotional game, and a spade card means like a physical game or something. And they're 1 to 10 harder the numbers. So they get in there and it's like a 9 of hearts. You're like, ooh, shit. And then like the game unfolds. You're like, the game stuff's really fun.
Cool. Okay, that sounds good. Oh yeah, I really didn't know anything about it beyond what I'd said. So that sounds quite
I think it's worth watching. I know people have been talking about that for a while.
Do you know if it's carried on after the 2 or is it been cancelled?
I think it's carrying on. I'll quickly look it up because I think it took them because season 1 came out pre-COVID. So then season 2 took a while to get made, I think.
Right, so I see.
I can't. No, I'll Google Alice in Borderland
season
3. I remember seeing like people talk about Alice in Borderland, and I had no idea what it was.
No, I'd
to the point that I didn't even realize it was Japanese.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So yeah, apparently there is in the works, maybe released this year.
Oh, cool. That's the 3rd one, is it then?
Yeah.
Okay, cool,
which I think might be the final season.
Yeah.
It's just not officially announced yet. But yeah, it's pretty good, and yeah, it's fun.
Nice.
I also watched a film on Netflix called Black Sea.
Right.
With Jude Law.
No, I don't know what that is.
So basically it's kind of a heist film where he's he used to do like he works on a submarine and finds treasure and stuff.
Okay.
And then goes off and does his own thing. They find out there's like Nazi gold in the Black Sea. And he gets this crew together, which is half British guys, half Russian guys, to go down there and find this old U-boat and get the gold. And then Nazi obviously things go awry. But Jude Law, it's got it's Michael Smiley, who you'd recognise from stuff. He's also in Spaced. He's the guy who likes to dance.
Wheels.
Was it Wheels?
Wheels. Tires.
Tires.
Is it Tires? Yeah.
He's Tires.
Yeah. Okay.
It's got Ben Mendelsohn in as well.
Yeah. Love Ben Mendo. Yeah.
It's pretty good, and obviously it's not great. And there's some bits where it's like things start happening for plot reasons, and I'm like, that's a bit silly.
Is it grounded or is it a bit weird?
It's grounded.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty good. And I was like,
is it like kind of like we're trapped on a sub and we're against each other kind of thing?
It gets to that at one point, yeah.
Okay, cool.
But there's some cool like underwater stuff going on and submarine stuff. There's not a lot of submarine films these days.
No, there's not. No,
and it's kind of a heist, but you don't see who they're stealing from. They're stealing from a sunken boat. Cool. But it's the whole thing of like, oh, the Russian Navy's right above us, so they can't know where we are.
Okay, yeah, that sounds quite fun.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I may have seen the title somewhere, but wouldn't been able to.
It's one of those things that just comes up recommended on Netflix, and I was like, okay, a heist on a submarine with Jude Law, sure,
sign me up.
Yeah, you got anything else?
Yeah, I watched the Steven Spielberg version of the BFG.
Oh yeah, I saw that when it came out.
Yeah. I hadn't watched it.
Pretty good.
It was pretty good. Yeah, I kind of hadn't realised how much I knew the BFG because I used to have the audiobook of it when I was like very, very young.
Yeah,
I know it was one that like
I think it was one of my favourite books. When
I
was like
one that my parents used to really like, so they'd like read it / put the tape on. And I also remembered looking back after watching this, there's like an animated version from like I think it's 1989.
Right, yeah. I remember seeing that.
It looks a bit like more like a 80s, 70s. Like,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure I looked it up. I'm pretty sure it was 89. And that's quite scary. Some of the giant designs are quite like creepy. This one's a bit less scary, I would say.
I like the designs in it, and the world stuff.
The world's good. At times it feels a little bit like the Hobbit films when like there's loads going on in his like cave where like a water thing falls over and like they've got that kind of like Rube Goldberg thing going on. A little bit like over designed at times.
Yeah.
But I like how like they've got like relics from the human world in the giant world. And there's a couple of bits, speaking of Wizard of Oz, they do the thing where, do you remember she like shouts at the drunk men quite early on out the window? There's men coming out of the pub outside the orphanage. She's like, be quiet. Right. The actors that are those men are the giants. So they use them. There's one guy that like shouts back at her. So they do that kind of like how much fun. Of it is like a metaphor for horrible adult men or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it gets very silly. Like it's very, very much like a fairy tale in that she's like, let's just go to the Queen of England. And then the army goes and they get,
It's very Roald Dahl.
Very Roald Dahl. But I think, it was always one of my favorite ones that like kind of felt a little bit less, I don't know, some Roald Dahl's a bit creepy, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory's got that kind of creepy vibe to it.
Do you remember watching the James the Giant Peach film in Amsterdam?
Oh no.
We watched that.
No, I did not.
When in somewhere we were at, they had a room.
We didn't put it on. Okay,
there was a room at the back that was showing James and the Giant Peach, and it's really fucking weird that film.
Yeah. No, I really like that one. I was talking to Amy afterwards. I don't think she particularly likes that one, but I said we could watch it at some point.
It skips between like.
It starts
animation
off and he goes into the peach and then it's stop motion. And I think it's Henry Selick maybe who did Nightmare Before Christmas. It's got that kind of vibe to it. No, I thought we watched on the houseboat that we were staying. Like it was it was like a houseboat hostel.
Yeah,
we watched Lethal Weapon all the way through.
Yeah, we did.
And I was just like, okay, I didn't really like it, to be honest. It was quite
don't really remember
it. But yeah, BFG was pretty good, I thought.
Nice.
Yeah. No, I've got a couple of comic-y bits because I used to mention all the comics I was reading. I read like 4 different series each week, and I just decided not to. But I have been watching. Oh, I'll just talk about it now. Mark Millar, who you may know from a little comic book event called Marvel Civil War, plus Kick-Ass, lots of other things. There's been lots of adaptations of his work. One that's never been adapted is Nemesis, which is not the Nemesis Project Nemesis. It was taglined when it came out as like, what if Batman was the Joker? And it's basically like a guy who's super rich, who's all dressed in white, like a Batman outfit without the ears, basically, and he goes on like a crime spree, and he's got like unlimited resources, and it's from the cop's perspective who he's like targeting, and it's like super intense and super violent, and it kind of escalates. And the reason I started reading it is because they're doing like a retelling of it, because it's been like 15 years since he released the original. Right. And I read the editorial, and he was like, at the time, you know, it was released and I wanted to do all this extra stuff with it. So he's kind of rebooted it. It's very, very good. It's only like 5 issues, so you could get like a slim little version of it, soft cover. But the new one is being tied into like some sort of like event in his Millarworld Image Comics thing.
Right.
And I started reading some of the other ones. There's one about, it's called Night Club, like 2 words. It's about like a kid who becomes a vampire, and he infects his friends, and they kind of become superheroes and wear like luchador masks so they can go out in the sun. And the designs are super Spider-Man-y, and they're basically like vampire Spider-Man. So I think he's building up like a Batman, Spider-Man, etc., to kind of have some sort of fucked up like team up. So I'm quite excited. That's coming out this year at some point. So I'm gonna kind of burn through all of those and see where that goes. And Millarworld have signed like an exclusive deal with Netflix for all their stuff, so I imagine we'll see adaptations of some of these in the coming years.
Probably some animated stuff.
I imagine Nemesis could be like a film, maybe, but it's very good. There's one bit that was a little bit weird and fucked up, but I won't talk about it. It's a bit of a spoiler, but you know, sometimes in comics from like the mid 2000s, there's something where it's
a bit edgy.
And Mark Miller used like in the Kick-Ass thing, there's something with like sexual assault that's just a bit like, you can have a villain be like gross without them like doing stuff like that. Hopefully that's not repeated in any of the new things, but I've been reading those, and we'll keep reading them.
So I finished Love, Death and Robots. Won't talk about that.
Oh yeah, we could do that another time. We've got a bit more time.
One thing I watched, there's a new series on Channel 5.
Oh really? Of all places,
right? Which is a Stephen Fry dinosaur series.
Okay, I feel like I've seen an advert where he's like, it's a bit like Walking with Dinosaurs. Yeah.
Obviously, last year I spoke about the David Attenborough Apple TV one, which was really good.
Planet.
This is not good.
Almost did a spit take there.
Does
it look bad?
It looks really bad. It's Stephen Fry like on a green stage, so he's like in the world, and he's like turning and talking to the dinosaurs and stuff, but they look like fucking like PS2 characters. And like the Prehistoric Planet, not only was it visually incredible, but there was lots of stuff I learned from it, being whereas this, it does have like, we know this, but it was kind of like, I kind of know most of this stuff.
So it was just like common knowledge stuff.
Well, there was one interesting bit where they're talking about Allosaurus's jaw open so wide it probably uses top teeth as like a hammer rather than a biting thing. I was like, that's pretty cool. That was like 5 seconds in a 45-minute show, and I was like,
the rest of it like
and I was just like, this just isn't very good. And like, I know it's not all about the special effects, but they are really quite poor, particularly because Prehistoric Planet came out like last year and looked just like a nature documentary. I was like,
that's a shame.
It's a weekly thing. I don't think I'm going to watch
Channel
anymore.
5 as well.
Yeah.
So.
I thought Stephen Fry, like, this could be pretty good. But
poor Stephen
it's
Fry.
just not very good.
Well, I mean, it's pretty suitable for this episode though, isn't it?
Yeah, it was better than Project Legion.
Okay.
It's not the worst thing I've watched in the last week. Cool. Shall we call it there then?
I'm happy to.
Hopefully you enjoyed this because we watched a terrible film for this.
We did it for you.
So please say you enjoyed this. You can tell us you enjoyed this by giving us 5 stars.
The most fucking bang ending ever.
Yeah, well,
please.
I don't choose.
We need something to come back on this.
Yeah, I'm not gonna keep watching Project Legion just for the fun of it.
We're now gonna be the Project Legion project.
Oh God, you just watch a different scene each week.
Yeah.
But yeah, please do give us 5 stars. It is appreciated, and sometimes it is quite fun talking about terrible stuff. So hopefully you enjoyed this.
Most of the time it is, just maybe not this time.
Yeah. But you can get in contact with us as well if you've seen Project Legion.
Oh yeah, we'd love to hear about it. You can send us your brutally honest opinions at theprojectpod@gmail.com. If you want to follow us to find out when we're posting new stuff, you can find all our social medias in the episode description in the link tree. You can find out when Lewis is posting lovely TikToks. We got some great clips up of Project Blue Earth SOS from a couple of weeks back.
TikTok took down my bloody White Rabbit project. It's still appealing.
You can't trust any of these apps. That's what I say.
Stuck a clip.
You know what? I'm joining Ben Shapiro.
Oh God! But he's partly responsible for Project Legion.
Yes, but he's probably anti-TikTok.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, you can find all that there. Also, if you think anyone would enjoy this rambling mess that we've gone through, please share this episode with them.
Yeah, do it.
And I think that might be it for this week.
Thank you for listening. It's always a pleasure having you here with us. I will hear you next week.
And I'll see you in hell. That's the show. We're out of here.
Bye.
Bye.